So Olivia's here with the newspaper review. International-wise, we're going to start off in Italy, in fact. The story to do with the scientist sentenced to 6 years in prison for failing to predict an earthquake, still making the newspapers. What about the Italian press? What are they saying about it?
Well, we've seen a lot of outrage from the international media about this decision to jail scientists for not predicting the earthquake. Very similar reaction in the Italian papers, but a lot of soul-searching as to how this decision came about. Il Sole 24 Ore, which is a financial daily, had a long editorial about this decision, saying that science and justice are on a collision course in the country of Galileo and Beccaria. Now, this piece is really a lament for Italy's scientific tradition. They say this decision is ridiculous, that everyone knows you can't really predict an earthquake with any accuracy, be that in Japan or the US or Italy, and that they've been making very unreasonable demands on scientists, that scientists haven't still, found a cure for the common cold, so they can't necessarily predict a huge earthquake. They also have a bit of a dig for the municipal authorities in L'Aquila who convicted these men. They say, fine, you convicted the scientists, but you could have had better municipal infrastructure, you could have warned the local population more about how to escape an earthquake. That's a very similar view that's been actually put forward in La Repubblica in a blog today as well, that talks about this intellectual schizophrenia in Italy of being very religious on the one hand but also attached to science on the other hand. It's entitled Science or Omniscience. They say that Italians love to use scientists as the scapegoats. If it doesn't work out, they'll just blame scientists. Whereas if religion triumphs, if the power of prayer works, then they'll celebrate it. So the scientists really can't win here.
OK, we're going to go from Italy to Russia, more on the Pussy Riot case. One of the 3 girls arrested has been released. The others, though, sent to high-security prisons. What are the papers saying about that?
Well, in Russia, they're concentrating on the happier news, that is the release of one of the girls. She left jail a few days ago, actually, because she had a suspended sentence. Yekaterina Samusevich gave an interview to Moscow News talking about her time in prison. She said it was generally quite OK. She even said the food was fine, but she did say she wasn't quite sure why some of her cellmates were in prison, that they had these very vague economic crimes that she didn't understand, and she did feel that people's rights were being violated. Although the paper suggests that she perhaps wasn't speaking very freely, she's a bit cautious about what she says right now because, of course, her 2 fellow bandmates are still in prison. She didn't talk about why she changed lawyers, for example. And on those 2 other women, they have been moved now to prison camps in very far-flung regions of Russia. And that's something that's been taken up by the international press. The London Evening Standard went as far as to call them the Gulag, for example. They say they've been sent to the Gulag archipelago, the cruelest kind of prison camps that exist in Russia, which make it sound quite medieval and terrifying. And that's an opinion that's shared by a specialist that The Guardian brought in to talk about what conditions in these prisons are like. Over 100 women to a room, razor wire everywhere, forced labour, and of course very limited access to your family because you're hundreds of kilometres away from where you live. So it's a very damning picture of Putin's attempts to crack down on freedom of expression.
And finally, a controversial new poll. This is saying that many Israeli Jews would support an apartheid system in Israel.
Yeah, this story that originated in Israel has, of course, gone all around the world because very controversial results of this poll. Haaretz have the statistics. The poll says that 59% of those interviewed want Jews to have preference over Arabs when it comes to government jobs, and for various other walks of life, they want Jews to be preferred to Arab Israelis. It must be pointed out, though, that this survey does only take 500 people into account. They've tried to make it representative of, all kind of Jews that are present in Israel. But Haaretz is very damning about the findings of this results. They seem disgusted by these statistics. There's an editorial that actually goes as far as to say we're racists, we practice apartheid, this is Israel, and that Israel, the country shouldn't complain if they have a poor image outside the country because they've done much to contribute to this.
OK, Olivia, thanks very much. Olivia Salzar-Winsper with the International Paper Review here on France 24.